Hello, this is sscroggins, and I am presenting the article Teaching Learners to be Self-Directed. This was written and published by Dr. Grow in 1991. So before we get started, let's jump in with the who, the what, when, and why. So Dr. Grow was a college professor since the 1960s, and he was very interested in adult learning styles and just how adult learners became more self-directed. And he observed several different learning and education theories that were published in the 70s and 80s, and he developed a model called the Staged Self-Directed Learning Model, which is the SSDL. And this basically wanted to suggest how teachers can actively equip students to become more independent in their learning style. This model applies to educational institutions but is specifically directed at the teachers. The SSDL model was formed from situational leadership and the managerial grid. Situational leadership focused on the employee's readiness and ability and motivation in order to ascend and become a better leader. The managerial grid, on the other hand, focused on the productivity and personal development, but the managerial grid used the team approach in order to motivate that. Dr. Grow combined some of those, or both of those, and established that there's a self-directed learning model that has different traits for different individuals. There are some genetic traits of the individual personalities. There are some historical events that could have occurred through different social interactions of that person's lifetime, as well as behaviors, some perceptions, thoughts, and experiences, and then combine that in with the actual instructional situation and just how much choice those learners have within those. And that is what he felt contributed to the self-directed learning styles. He published this chart, which you can see on the left side, have 4 different stages of learning. There's the students, the teachers, and he also provided some examples. We are going to look a little more in depth at each of those stages. Stage 1 are the low self-direction learners. And this type of learner responds best to the coach. Low self-direction learners need authority, and they need someone to explain and give explicit details and explain everything on how to do it, when to do it, tell them everything that is expected of them. And the instructor is an expert who has a real mastery of what he or she is teaching. Some examples are formal lectures, highly specific assignments, and intensive individual tutoring. And Dr. Grow used the movie Stand and Deliver to explain and demonstrate just how the coach theory applies to the low self-direction learning. Stage 2 are learners of moderate self-direction, and this type of learner responds well to the guide. Dr. Grow discussed the movie Dead Poets Society, and Robin Williams was the instructor who brought enthusiasm and motivation to class, to this group of boys, to learn more about poetry. The learners are available and interested, and this depends upon a two-way communication between the learner and the instructor. It also noted that this communication is very important to foster that interest and some of the motivation. Stage 3 is the intermediate self-direction, and this type of learner responds well to the facilitator. It's stage 3 at which point the learner and the instructor have the most interaction. The learners have the skill and knowledge, and they are starting to see themselves as participants in their own education. They are ready to explore and looking for a guide to discover the educational process. Dr. Grow used Carl Rogers as an example, and Carl Rogers was an American psychologist, and he was also described as a humanist, and he is the first to describe using a client-centered approach. He's also considered to be one of the founding fathers of modern psychotherapy. Stage 4, high self-direction learners. And this type of learner responds well to the delegator. These learners set their own goals and standards with or without help from the experts, and the learners use experts to pursue their goals. These learners are willing to take responsibility and they accept that they have an active role in the productivity and direction. The instructors are there to cultivate the learner's ability to learn and really just oversee. They tend to be more away from the actual learning, are there for expert consultation to provide guidance, but also are there in a very supportive role. The example given is an internship, senior projects, independent study, and dissertation. Dr. Groh provided the example of Gandhi as the delegator. And Gandhi, if you remember, was a civil rights leader, a lawyer, and Gandhi used nonviolent resistance to inspire movements for civil rights throughout the world. And finally, this is the notation for the annotated bibliography. I appreciate your time and attention, and I look forward to your responses and to see what you think about these different learning styles. Thank you.